Hello everyone, my name is Arash Etadali. I'm with CAS Interiors. We are a construction management firm specializing in tenant and leasehold improvements in GTA. This is my podcast 10 in 10, when we ask 10 questions in 10 minutes from all leaders from our industry. Design and architects, engineers, landlords, construction managers, and client themselves, of course. The aim of this podcast is to open the conversation about the challenges we face today in our industry. These are trying and unprecedented times, and it's really important for all of us to get together and move forward and make a lateral decision about how to approach this. So hopefully we can put this behind us very soon. Today's guest is Gensler. For those of you who are not familiar with Gensler, Gensler is a global architecture, design, and planning firm with 50 locations and more than 5,000 professionals networked across Asia, Europe, Australia, and the Middle East and the Americas. Founded in 1965, the firm serves to make more than 3,500 active clients in virtually every industry. Gensler designers strive to make the places people live, work, and play more inspiring, more resilient, and more impactful. My today's guest is Matthew Kobylar. I'm very excited about having Matthew. Matthew is a design director at Gensler's Toronto office. He's passionate about research-driven design and has extensive experience in professional services firms, including accountancy firms, law practices, executive recruitment consultants, management consultant, as well as many financial institutions. He has written for numerous publications and presented internationally on many core workplaces issues, including increasing productivity, multi-generational workplaces, health and well-being, and measuring workplace performances. Thank you to Gensler and thank you for Matthew to provide us with their time and expertise. We are very excited. I hope you enjoyed this conversation and find it informative and helpful. If you have any comments or feedback, you can reach me via my email at arash@casinteriors.com. That's ARASH@casinteriors.com. Or you can simply send me a private message via LinkedIn. I'll be happy to listen to any comment and feedback you have. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Here's my conversation with Matthew at Gensler. Enjoy, be happy, safe, and healthy. Hello, everyone. As I mentioned, today we are talking to Matthew Kobylar at Gensler. Matthew is a design director at Gensler's Toronto office, and he's been kind enough to provide us with his time and expertise today. Welcome, Matthew.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you. Well, as I mentioned in our introduction, Matthew has had a vast experience and published many publications and presented internationally. So his time and value is very, very important to us, and we appreciate that. Now, let me jump into the first question, Matthew. Tell us how you and Gensler have been adjusting with the new circumstances around COVID-19 in a short-term basis.
Yeah, well, I think, overnight we went to working from home. And I think one of the good things that we were pretty well prepared for it because we work across regions and across offices, across the over 47 offices we have. Chances are you're already collaborating with some of your colleagues in say the New York office or San Francisco or London office. And so those tools existed for us to collaborate quite quickly and easily. So I would say that on the technology wise, it was a simple, easy breezy thing for us. There are challenges, of course, because we're a design firm. We're designers. We like to draw, and I struggle if I don't actually have a picture to kind of make sure I know what I'm supposed to be talking about. And so I think those are the things where that face-to-face sit down, roll out the trace, and draw something together with your teammates and colleagues is is something that's not as easy to do in the virtual world.
That's correct. Of course, it is. These are challenging times for all of us, I guess, and how we adjust to it is going to define how we continue to face the challenges in this industry. Now, following that, what are the long-term changes or plans that you can foresee at Gensler dealing with COVID-19?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things we don't know entirely. Um, we're seeing a lot of our clients ask us questions about hybrid collaboration. So as some people start to come back to the office, what is it going to mean for people who are getting the chance to collaborate face to face and some people who are not collaborating face to face, right? They're using a digital platform to connect with other people that are in the room. And it's there's kind of an equity that happens when everybody is communicating virtually that I'm a little bit worried about when some of us return back, and I know our clients are worried about it. I think one of the interesting thing is, we have satellite offices that are connected to the Toronto office in Calgary and in Montreal and Vancouver. And the whole work from home thing has really made those colleagues there feel more connected because oftentimes they were the ones that were joining a meeting in progress as virtual members. So
Right.
that whole notion of hybrid collaboration in the future will be, how do we bring back the kind of intimacy when we're all on a level playing field right now as we are, and joining virtual tools when some people will be able to be in the room face to face, and there's folks that are on that screen over there in the side of the conference room.
That's a good point, actually. I never thought about it that way. Which again, it segues into my next question. Is we're all aware of all the negative impacts that COVID has had in our personal and professional life. And can you think of? I mean, so you sort of did actually, but if you have some other examples of how anything positive that come out of this for you personally or for the organization.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. We've been listening a lot to our clients and listening to what they're dealing with and how they're working with things. I think there's going to be a, a, a bigger shift to letting people. There'll be an increase in the amount of working from home. So it will become a value proposition, and most of our clients are starting to see that that's a value proposition, even from industries that are very traditional, like lawyers, for instance, that generally were you have to be in the office, you have to be working there in the office, and we're starting to see every single industry think about leveraging that work from home experience to provide their staff with a choice of where to work,
Right.
when to work, and that
Right.
probably means a difference of how they're going to use space. But I think that value proposition is beneficial for everyone. I live alone, but for my colleagues that have children and stuff, I know how easily they can get bogged down with their time trying to manage their lives and also their children's lives, and find that time to spend quality time with them. And I think that working from home in the future will be allow some flexibility for those colleagues and other people that are either taking care of older folks or they're taking care of children. And even just for me as a single person without any dependents that finds it very easy to focus at home, I would appreciate having that ability to sometimes work from home if I want to and get other things done, around the house, like laundry and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I think you're 100% on the point here. One thing I've realized that this pandemic and all of us working from home and all this accident you see happening on the Zoom and all those meetings when the people are in a meeting is given everyone a kind of human face. Yes, we are all professionals. We are all Mr. and Mrs. or Miss or he or she at work and have titles, but at the end of the day, at home, we're just all mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and we're human.
Yeah, I think it's brought a real sense of compassion and understanding to everyone. I see colleagues, and there'll be an interruption in the background of kids, and we all just kind of laugh. But I think we laugh about it and go, okay, we kind of have empathy about it. And I feel like maybe 6 months ago, people would be like, seriously, you can't control your kids, But we're all sort
Right.
of understanding that these are parts of life, and I do feel that there's a lot more empathy and a lot more compassion for everyone's individual situations.
That's very true. And I mentioned that in another conversation. I remember when September 11 happened, me and my friends, colleagues at work were glued to TV, and we were all thinking, how are we going to move from this? And we obviously did. And I think as a society, we moved on. We became better, more resilient, more cared for each other more. And I believe when tragedies happen, kind of brings people together. And same can be said about COVID-19. I can see people being kinder and more understanding to each other.
Yes,
And
yes, definitely.
and at least we hope so. Now, can you, in the past few 3 4 months, obviously I'm sure you've had a lot of clients coming up to you with ideas and with questions. Can you think of an example of a client that came to you and needed some sort of temporary adjustments or some help with in a short term and what to do? Can you give us some example of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things that we're helping clients with their near-term return to work strategies. So we have a whole program of services that we can offer clients. They're coming to us and saying, we're going to open up some of our offices, not everybody, but maybe 20, 25% of our people are going to return back to work. How is that going to work? And
Right.
they're looking to us to help guide them on how they can separate people from, make physical social distancing work in the office. We start to help them about etiquette guides. So what are going to be the rules? So if you can sit at your desk without a mask, but the minute that you stand up to go get something, you have to put a mask on. Well, you need the tools to communicate that. So our consulting side is helping clients develop those tools to be able to communicate that to their staff. And we also have signage programs that go with it. We recognize very early on that probably a lot of people are going to want signs, and there's going to be a lot of people rushing out to go buy signs, and you're going to struggle to try and get the artwork done and create the signs and get them in time. So our graphic design departments developed a whole kit of parts.
Okay.
We have a manufacturer here in Toronto that's able to make them for us. So it's just a matter of us kind of figuring out what signs you need and putting those in. So I think there's a whole bunch of things that clients are very concerned about how they could communicate, not to do like heavy lifting and heavy infrastructural changes, but simple things that can allow them to return back to work with a feeling of being more safe.
Right. That's a great idea. That's actually a great idea and a great example. Now, obviously, design industry in particular has been digging deep for the past few months. How does your organization foresee the future of office design and the role that we play in the role that it will play in the different industries in future, the place of office?
Yeah, I think workplace is going to change. Um, Quite different. There was a huge movement towards further and further densification. So we were seeing areas per person drop lower and lower and lower. And I think that the reaction to COVID is going to be that densification goes on a hiatus. I think we'll start to measure offices in terms of utilization rather than square foot per person. So it'll be a change of things like what percentage of the office is full, right?
Yeah.
And so if the office is there might be a trigger in the early days where 25% full is capacity. And then later on, as we get closer to having a vaccine, or our numbers in Toronto or in the Ontario are so low that, the threat risk is very low, that utilization rates might go up. I think there's going to be a lot more change in the way that people individually work, their work style. So if you've got something to focus on, you've got to write a report, you're doing a proposal, you're doing something that needs a lot of thinking and a lot of focused time, you might choose to do
Right.
that at home. And really the reason you're going to come to the office is to collaborate, to mentor, for knowledge exchange, for all of those kind of things. So if I don't need the office to focus, I don't really need a workstation. I need collaboration places. I need places to connect. And I think that's where we'll start to see, and that's what we are hearing from our clients as well, that they're thinking that maybe they don't need as many desks that they need that we
That
have today.
that's a very good point. Now, to that point, and I need you to correct me if I'm wrong here. In the past, obviously, the square footage per person has been shrinking. And now, for the people who do need to go to the office, do you foresee that space increasing for per person?
Well, I think that it's going to be a change of measurement. So I don't think I think it'll be a very difficult thing to say that the area per person will decrease. I think we're going to have to measure it by utilization. And so it will be a space is designed for a certain percentage of their population. And that may mean that of the target population, it may mean, a certain, so you have to think of it as a target population.
Right.
And then that area will probably be not too dissimilar to what it is today.
Right. Okay. That's a good point. Fair answer. Now you kind of alluded to that a bit in your early conversation, but technology has played a massive role in how we do business, especially for the past few months working remotely and all that. At CAS, we actually we use that last few months of looking at the different technologies that can help us be more helpful. For instance, we have invested in a camera system where our site super can go and do a site walkthrough, and the client and the designer and engineers can do remotely see where he is in the drawings and what the changes and the before or after. That reduces obviously the people don't have to physically be on the site anymore, which is a big part of what we do, obviously. Has there been has your Gensler invested in any new technology, or have you guys looked at any changes?
Yeah, we have created a new analytic service called Graph, and it quickly analyzes space and layouts and identifies multiple reoccupancy scenarios. So it's very cool the way that it looks. Like if you imagine it, what happens with a plan is you put in a plan there, and then you populate it with I guess like fictitious people. It's all in an algorithm there, and then it will chart what happens once these people start to move around the office. And so you can start to see density in corridors where there's potentially pinch points, so that you can sort of maybe think about how you might reorient the space, or how, where you might say that desk isn't going to be assigned to anyone because it's caught in the nexus of a flow of traffic. Um, so it allows the tenants to address many different factors at the same time: density, circulation, technology, like employees' confidence, so they can actually see what this plan looks like and go, oh, actually, I can see how the circulation is going to work, and where they're planning to put us, there's not heavy flows of people moving around.
Right.
And it can do all possible occupancies at once. So, it's all an algorithm. So it can do everything from 3-foot separation to 20-foot separation, and give clients the confidence to tell their folks that they're dealing with the COVID reentry in as safe a manner as possible.
That's interesting. That's actually a really good idea. Now, as one of the leaders in the design industry, what kind of advice do you have for your own industry, for design and architects in these times?
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from a lot of my colleagues is, not colleagues rather, but a lot of my friends in other firms,
Yeah.
they're worried about having to go on site. They're worried about, they're asking me what our firm is doing. I think Gensler's actually been in a leading position on this. We've got a whole system of protocols and forms that we fill out to make sure that we go on site, that we've got the right equipment. And then also then on the construction side, that your folks are handling this with the seriousness that it needs, and that you've got the proper protocols on site side. So I do feel like our industry, from my friends that are saying, what are you guys doing? I have to go on site. I'm worried. We don't have a format. We don't have a process yet. I think the A&D community has to realize that construction is back up. It's
Yes.
running. They need to make sure that their people are feeling safe, and get that going, so that their staff can feel comfortable and
Right.
assured that they're not going to be in a desperate situation.
Right. That's a good advice. Thank you. Now, how about companies like us, the general contractors and construction managers? What kind of advice do you have for people like us? What can we do better?
Yep. I think that's, I don't go on site as much as some of my colleagues because I'm in a more design director role.
Right.
But from the ones I do know, like that's a big interface for us is how you guys are operating the site. Nobody wants to have their project shut down because of a COVID scenario where somebody there has COVID and it starts to spread across your organization, on that job site because steps haven't been taken in place. So I think it's very easy for some of the people that may be working on site to think, okay, I'm outside, depending on the kind of like situation that it is, if it's open to the environment, that they may forego the rules. So I think that training
Right.
is very important on all levels of your staff, and all of your subs as well. Make sure that they're following a protocol, and it may mean that construction is phased a little bit longer, and making sure that our clients are all aware that actually what might have taken 3 months before is now going to take 4 months because you need to have different groups of people on site at different times.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. And like I said, one way of what we looked at it at CAS was to invest heavily in technology where we don't have to have people physically be available on site as much as possible. The other thing was just to as you mentioned, to have our site supers train and make sure that they schedule all the trades in a way that there's only a certain maximum amount of people be on site at any given time. Now, unfortunately, sometimes that drives the cost up, as I'm sure you know, because people have to work at night and we have to work 24 hours and after hours work, but it is what it is, and we got to protect everyone. So that's a very good point. Now, the last bit of advice I need from you is for our clients. What do you tell to our clients? What do the clients need to do? What I've noticed is recently there's everyone jump into the hoop. Oh, we don't need office anymore. Office is done. People can work from home. For me, that's very short-sighted because business office is not just about being there physically doing your work. Office is about exchanging energy, ideas, and yes, we don't have to be at the office all the time. But this doesn't mean we don't need office. Now, a lot of clients obviously have jumped a hoop and they're trying to see what they should do, what they can do. What kind of advice do you have for them?
I think the advice I would say is it needs to be studied more. The trust, the office, I feel the workplace is the crucible of trust. It's where that face-to-face connection comes in, that I've built up a connection to you. I know who you are. I've seen you. And there's a lot of research here that backs that up, that people that face-to-face, that you've had that interaction with them, you've seen their body language, you see how they actually respond. You have a better ability to later on have a virtual communication or a phone call with them because you sort of already have a sense of them as a person. We are still, at the core of us, we're still kind of animals, and there's a lot of
Right.
things that we get from seeing a person face to face. So I do think that the workplace, and I use the word workplace because a workplace is all encompassing. It's everything from the space, it's how you manage people, it's the tools you have, technologies, and it's also the culture. But
Sure.
workplace is definitely key to building up that trust. And you can see it with any of the organizations we're dealing with now, where they are grappling with new hires and trying to onboard people in this age of COVID, where they're not able to physically walk them around the office. Every meeting is kind of scheduled, so they don't have that serendipitous conversation when they're getting a cup of coffee with one of their colleagues that they don't sit next to. And so if everything is planned and every meeting is set, the only way that certain new hires potentially meet anybody is if somebody's taken the time to schedule a meeting with them.
Right.
That serendipitous interaction is just not occurring.
Fair enough. That's a very good point, and I completely agree. Well, I like to end the conversation with something positive and funny. God knows we all could use a little bit of positivity in our life. Can you share with us any funny personal stories that have happened to you last few months during pandemic?
Yeah, I think the one that strikes me is actually using a Zoom platform. So Gensler it's not one of the platforms we've been using,
Right.
but we recently had a client who wanted to use Zoom as the platform for them, which was fine, except that I was already involved with a pub quiz weekly. So I used to go to a pub quiz here in Toronto, and I had a team. Our team used to go and go to the pub and do this in person. So they moved everything virtual. And for the guy who runs it to put everybody into separate rooms, you had to put your name. So I put Matthew, and then you had to type in your team name. And our team name was pretty vulgar name. So I actually can't even tell you what it is.
Okay.
But Zoom has this really great habit of remembering what your last name was that you put into the screen. So when I joined the this client meeting for the first time with the client, it put my name up there and then put this really vulgar pub quiz team name that we had. So and I was like trying to change. I'm like, oh my God, where do I change this? Where do I change this? And my colleagues were texting me. They're like, look at your name, change it. So anyway, that was a lesson learned about the Zoom for me.
That is really funny. Thanks for sharing that. Well, thank you very much for your time. That's pretty much all my questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or you'd like to finish the conversation with?
Well, I think this is a pleasure to talk to you and kind of get a perspective. I'm glad you guys are doing this. It's great for us all to exchange information and see what other folks are doing. So I'm glad to hear what you guys are doing on the front for your, to make our jobs easier too.
Absolutely. You know what? Thank you very much. I appreciate you giving us the time and your expertise. I find it very informative and helpful, and I'm sure everyone else will. What I will do at the end of this, I will put Matthew's email up and as in credential. If you have any question for Gensler or Matthew, you can reach out to him directly. We thanks Matthew and Gensler for doing this, and we hope to see you in more positive and better times.
Yes, and in person soon. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. That was my conversation with Matthew Kobylar at Gensler. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. If you need to reach Matthew or Gensler directly, I will put down his email address on the screen, and you can reach out to Matthew directly. If you have any questions or comments for me, I can be reached on my email at arash@casinteriors.com, or you can send me a private message via LinkedIn. Thanks again to Matthew and Gensler for their time and expertise. Thank you for your time and listening to this. Be happy, healthy, and safe, and we will connect on my next podcast. Have a great day, everyone.